shows have been brought back for centuries now. In the early 2000s, it was really rare. IP was not as valuable as it was now. If anything, sequels had like negative connotations behind them. People would just have new shows, new movies. Like, if something was based off an IP, it almost seemed cheaper. The early 2010s is when we really started to take on this concept of reviving a show. Not just taking the actors and putting them on a new show to kind of redevelop their chemistry, but literally taking from where the previous show left off with everything still kind of intact for the most part. One of the more controversial ones and the bigger deals of this current decade is the iCarly 2021 reboot, especially since the regular iCarly stood such a good test of time. So today we're going to be going over the new revival of iCarly, iCarly 2021. And we're going to cross-compare it to its original show and kind of see what it did better and how it improved upon the show and the reasons it's kind of awkward. So strap in because this video is going to be a long one. Now let's get into the new lore of iCarly. What's up everybody, it's Johnny2000, focusing on 2000s movies, media, TV, movies, and so much more. I'm gonna try to do another video about revivals and reboots in general because there is just way beyond too many to name, but I did want to talk about the ones that were relevant to this show. So we have full-on sequel successors, which is what iCarly is, a sequel to the series, taking exactly from where it left off. Those are shows like Fairly Odd Parents: A New Wish. Not sure if you guys saw my video on that, but they didn't have to get rid of anything. They just kind of continued the Timmy Turner story without Timmy Turner. And Cosmo and Wanda are the way it's continued. Same thing with Wizards Beyond Waverly Place. It's following a new girl instead of Alex Russo, and everything is kind of continuing after the fact. That 90s show also did the same thing. It took that 70s show and just went on 20 years later. And of course, Sex and the City had their show, And Just Like That, which actually took place after Sex and the City. These are more akin to the iCarly situation because they're all the same in that sense. But like I said, before sequel series ended up being the new thing, we used to have spiritual successors, which aren't exactly the new show, but the same dynamic and the same concept trying to be a new show. For example, if we're looking back at what we looked at, that 70s show actually had a sequel before, that 80s show, and instead of having any cast returns or anything, they just put in new characters. They were trying to spiritually success that show through its character chemistry, trying to avoid a sequel series because they knew it wasn't cool at the time. Oh, a similar show that comes to mind is Young and Hungry, you know, a star from teen TV taking the adaptation into adult media, with Emily Osment from Hannah Montana essentially keeping her quirky character vibe and creating a new IP out of it. You know, that easily could have been like a Hannah Montana sequel. You could have easily made it a sequel series where Lily is just at a new house, but they chose to go a new direction. Something that's adjacent to the iCarly situation, but that show ended up better than a Hannah Montana revival could have been. Same thing with What I Like About You. Amanda Bynes was originally on all that, The Amanda Show, and while they easily could have taken the Amanda character and had her be the one of the main character of What I Like About You, they just had her quirky vibe lead the show, and it felt kind of like a spiritual successor to The Amanda Show. I consider these like successes of a spiritual successor. One more to be clear on what that is. King of Queens, which was a sitcom about Kevin James, had another show called Kevin Can Wait, and it was essentially the same character, and they brought back pretty much the original actors from that show, even though it was a completely different show, and effectively avoided anything the original series had to offer. I feel like there's a reason for spiritual successors and sequel successors, but all of them kind of revolve around the public opinion of what is okay to continue. The reason I want to go over all of those shows I just mentioned was because I need a form of reference as to how the quality of iCarly really matches up. All the examples I've given are shows I actually really like, and would consider doing the show justice. Whether spiritual or sequel, like, they kept the chemistry that kept the original show alive. I feel like iCarly fails a lot at that, like, a lot. In terms of the kids show realm, we think about shows like Girl Meets World, the sequel to Boy Meets World. Clearly that's not a spiritual one, that is a complete sequel. And they took on a whole new concept and made it unique to themselves without necessarily needing to be a copy and paste of the original show, something I consider really well done. But in this case with iCarly, it's a little weird because it's that adult jump, where What I Like About You and Young and Hungry didn't need to make their original shows like raunchy. They essentially started from ground zero with a new series. Girl Meets World didn't make the transition into adult humor, they just kept the original audiences in mind for that. That 90s show was originally a little gaudy anyway, so they could just keep everything intact. But iCarly is doing the big risk. They're taking the original show's concept and putting it in the adult world without changing any of the characters. For the most part, it's done in a really effective and funny way, but sometimes things feel a little shoehorned. But for me, the thing that really makes the new iCarly series successful is its audience. I don't always prefer the meta jokes, rehashing a lot of the same plot lines, and limitations of evolving the character too much so that way people remember the original show. But since it's so committed to its audience, like me and the people we grew up with it, like, it's hard to avoid that stuff. Like, that is the stuff that we actually are going to watch. A show that doesn't take itself too seriously, but still embodies the original show, and it kind of does exactly that. A lot of people that have reviewed this show before, or even iCarly, like Quentin Reviews, have had a lot to say about this show, why it continued, why it shouldn't have or should have continued. Like, I just kind of want to compare it to what it could have been versus what it didn't be. What it didn't been or could have been, be. You guys know what I mean. I'm gonna also need to reference famous sitcoms like The Big Bang Theory, 2.5 Men, Malcolm in the Middle, and Friends, of course, to actually talk about what a sitcom could be at its best. Because iCarly isn't just a sequel to a good sitcom, it needs to be a good sitcom. So I don't need to go easy on these guys in terms of that. Like, I wish they just made sure that was the case. Now, before we jump into episode 1, let's start with the iCarly season 1 standard from the original show. Like, the best and worst of iCarly. That way there's a better standard for what is good in the iCarly universe or bad in the iCarly universe. Like, for example, I feel like iCarly at its peak in the first season is definitely the episode, season 1, episode 5, I Wanna Stay with Spencer. And that was a really funny episode. It was early in the series run, after the pilot, after iDream of Dance, after we kind of got a feel for what Carly and Sam were trying to do with their web show, trying to popularize it and deal with all this online chaos. And in this, the plot was basically, during the web show, Spencer had a wheel of rotating hammers. It almost hit Carly live on the air, and obviously he felt really bad, and it's focused a lot on Spencer and his role as an adult in the world. If you know me, he's one of my favorite characters, which is 100% why I'm anchored to this show in the first place. So I thought this would be the perfect example of what iCarly does best. In the episode, Deshay's grandfather visits from Yakima, explaining that he is there to take Carly to live with him instead of Spencer, because, you know, he's just pretty irresponsible. Which is fair, she almost died live on TV. Like, I would be a little embarrassed. Carly really doesn't want this to happen, so she pushes back as much as humanly possible so she doesn't have to move. There are a lot of funny moments in this episode that I completely forgot, and even though it's more tangled together through a plot line as opposed to the later episodes that are just joke after joke, this one was like pretty grounded in its sitcom nature, probably why it's so good. Like, I like seeing Carly fight to stay, I like seeing Freddie and Sam get involved to actually help this happen. And it's so funny, they actually have to just make Spencer look like a responsible adult by putting him in a tie and suit. And of course, he ruins it at every possible angle. He eventually does convince the grandfather to let Carly stay because we learn that he's kept track of her medicines, everything that makes him a responsible adult. Which, by the way, I don't think later Spencer would ever be this responsible. Like, look at this.
Well, yeah, but you know, you never know.
Why did you keep that all these years?
In case you needed it.
Nah, I'm not gonna need this.
Look, as Miss Tricky.
I'm not gonna need this because I want Carly to stay here with you.
Are you serious?
But yeah, when I rewatched this episode, I thought it was the perfect emblem of iCarly. We got the web show involved, we got some funny jokes that are grounded with the characters, the dynamics are funny. Carly and Sam make sense, Sam and Freddie make sense, like everybody kind of has their working relationship. And since it's not originally based on another show, they do care about proving themselves, so they don't expect the audience to know anything, they just kind of let them organically chime into the characters' drama. And I went into this new show hoping I would see episodes like this, you know, like more complicated dynamics between Carly and her friends, Carly and Spencer, real world implications to having an artist for a brother, or this guy that's just so irresponsible. I feel like the things that made iCarly really good back then were its witty and quick dialogue that was all rooted in the characters' wants and needs of the scene. This is something I'm not gonna say that I see a lot of in the new series, trust me. And it does that awesome sitcom thing where all the plots carefully are concluded by the end of the episode. Everything everybody's going through, A, B, and C plot, are perfectly aligned. Now, if we're talking about a bad episode example, though, is Season 1, Episode 3, iDream of Dance. I know you guys have seen my videos before, so you'll know that I really hate this episode. I feel like the storyline gets all meshed up. It doesn't get resolved by the end of the episode. We break free of the normal structure just for some random jokes that don't really have anything to do with the character or the situations. There's no real moral at the end of the episode. No characters really cared about each other in a way that allowed them to grow at all. And all the jokes that were actually in there were sometimes in bad fun, like I would say too cynical. Something I noticed this new show drops a lot of, the cynical parts of it, which almost feel unnatural. But yeah, so if it's a good episode, it will lean more toward being I want to stay with Spencer, but if it's definitely on its worst axis, I'm seeing it being more like I Dream of Dance. So let's do it. Let's jump into iCarly Season 1 with the pilot.
Wasn't supposed to catch on fire, was it?
Never is.
So the new show starts with episode 1 called iStart Over, and it's no joke, guys, they really did try to start over. iCarly is completely different now, it's 2021, and Spencer is nude! Which is kind of like a great start off for the new series, having Spencer be naked, because it, 1, establishes that this series might be a little bit more inappropriate, and 2, it starts off with all of our main characters kind of in the same room, as opposed to the pilot where we saw Carly, the original series pilot, where we saw Carly enter the principal's office for the first time, and she kind of gives us the background info, kind of passive-aggressively. Or just passively, I guess. Something that bothered me about this original pilot is the same thing that bothers me about the current one, where it's like they kind of just feed the expository information just casually. Like, in the principal's office of the original show, Carly's like, I live with my brother Spencer. She essentially has this whole monologue explaining her circumstances and why the audience shouldn't have questions about her upbringing. It's cool because we get the principal's perspective and Miss Briggs' perspective on her life, which kind of adds context for the audience, as opposed to the new one, which assumes the audience knows exactly where we've left off, so we only are introduced to the main characters, and it makes it sound like the dialogue is a lot more expository too, where each character essentially gets a turn to very quickly say what they've been up to in the last, like, 5-6 years. Which is Spencer being super rich, and Carly essentially being new to the town she had grown up in. Not necessarily new, but we're seeing her here for the first time in a while. She's got a lot more baggage than she originally had. Before we knew that she went to Ridgeway, and she grew up here in Seattle, across from Freddie, and she has a best friend. In this series, we learn that she is an adult woman who spent a lot of time in Italy, a lot of time with her ex-best friend Sam, rest in peace, because of course she's not returning in this series due to unforeseen circumstances. You could look into that yourself. But she had a whole couple years with her dad in the military, and she is a lot more mature of a person. She's currently dating somebody named Bo, which we don't have to go into the deep background of what Bo is. But the point is, all around, she has a lot more baggage than she did in the first series. And instead of it being her and her 2 best friends and her brother, this time it's her, her brother, and her best friend. I consider Freddie her best friend because it's the first one she took from the last series, but Harper is actually her best friend too. And Freddie's a lot more intimate of a friend than he was in the beginning. Carly is talking about like this whole new life she wants to have with Bo, and she wants to start a web series with him. So I guess she's still in the world of the internet, but this time she's clearly caught up with the fact that influencing is a lot more important than doing a web show nowadays, which I kind of like that they lean into that. It's a lot more realistic. We get thrown into a proposal type situation where Carly is about to ask Bo to be full-time web partners, but he's about to break up with her. So a lot of drama right off the bat, and we get Freddie trying to record the whole thing, and it's embarrassing. So if you ask me, this start to the new series is a lot more impactful than even the first one. Although, they do expect us to know a lot more information going into it than ever before, which is kind of annoying. And there's something offbeat about the jokes this time around, where not all of them are necessarily funny, but they still kind of go with the timing of a joke. We get a little bit of insight onto how the series is about to unfold. And I just remember the first time this show came out. Like, I followed it for probably years before it came out, hearing little details about how Carly will have a little girl to deal with. Ended up being Freddie's daughter. That a lot of the cast is going to come back, which ended up being everybody but Noah Monk and Jeanette McCurdy, Sam, and Gibby. And as little details kept revealing themselves along the way, I just got more hyped because it just sounded like a great idea. Like, the original iCarly connection to the internet is very relevant still to this day, so they can only really get closer to that, right? But it's such a nice nostalgic feeling when you get to see this show air for the first time and you're looking at the theme song and you're really curious about all the episodes you're about to see. Like the original iCarly, I can see all these clips and I know exactly what they're about. I know the episodes that are coming around. I know everything to expect. But now it's like I'm on the journey too with iStart over. They try to loop us in with the most familiar characters in the cold open, which is really fair because I don't like to be thrown into a bunch of stuff, which they kind of do with Harper and Freddie's daughter. I wish we got like one moment with each of them in the same way we do with Carly and Sam in the pilot. This episode is kind of like a redemption episode where Carly is essentially getting over her breakup depression, and it's a lot more intricate than the first series, which I kind of like. I like that there's a lot of stuff we have to unpack. Carly is essentially kind of fighting for her humanity here. Like, it puts her in a position where she makes a lot of decisions that could really help us define who she's become now that she's here again. I wish they leaned more into the whole going back to your hometown thing as like a millennial, because that's such an interesting story that all the people watching this show are probably going through, like returning to their roots in the same way that Carly is doing that. Like, it's such good commentary on the culture we're going through. And Harper is very quirky and fun right off the bat, where like she's kind of dismissive and ignorant in the way that Sam was. Well, Sam was more ignorant and violent and didn't really care about what other people think, and Harper's more focused on what other people think and leans into her whole goals. I get a little annoyed at how preachy it could be sometimes, but I feel like the information getting in our heads is more important than the way they deliver it, so fine, I guess. I'm just thinking that when I'm looking at the party scene with Spencer and Freddie, and they're like kind of going back and forth, taking turns saying what they've been up to. And their dynamic is a lot more refreshing this series. I feel like they didn't have a lot of reasons to talk because of the age gap between Carly, Freddie, and Spencer, but this time Spencer and Freddie have a lot more meaningful of a relationship, and Freddie takes on more of a parental role with his new daughter, which Millicent being in this is it's kind of hard for your mind to wrap around pretty quickly. Like, Freddie has a daughter, he looks like he is still a kid. But, you know, that's just kind of how we look. You know, speaking as somebody born in the 90s, I don't think we're ever gonna grow up. I really don't. But Millicent's the character I've always been looking forward to, like the person that butts heads with Carly about social media and trends, because she's the age that Carly was when her show started. And she is a lot more cynical, a lot more like Megan from Drake and Josh than Carly necessarily. So it's kind of interesting. It feels like a Drake and Josh plot weaved into a new series of iCarly, which definitely adds a little bit of nostalgia because we all liked Drake and Josh growing up, but you still kind of need to work on your own when you're doing a show like this. And I wish I cared more about Freddie's approval toward Millicent, like their relationship and how deeply they care about each other, because it seems like they're more co-workers right off the bat, which I don't love. And we're missing Sam and Freddie's like back and forth comedic duo dynamic. Like, this doesn't seem like it's replacing it. Nor do Freddie and Spencer feel like they're replacing it. It more so feels like a Carly-centric plot, which there's nothing wrong with it, but if you're going to shove in everybody else's backstory, either wait and teeter off the information for us to learn later, or just find a better way to weave it into the plot. Like learning about Carly, Sam, and Freddie was a lot easier when we were seeing them in relation to the teachers and the students at Ridgeway in middle school. There was usually a more established reason to keep everybody in each other's lives, which made so much more sense for the show than it does now. Like now, when you're an adult, you really do have to find a reason to keep people around, and it has to be a lot more, monetary or family-oriented, like to make it really believable. So Millicent being in this group is a tough sell, and I still feel that to like the end of my iCarly watch. Like I've watched this show for a while now, the reboot, and I feel like that's just something that's really hard for me to get over, is just the very inception of Freddie and Millicent's relationship. So in order not to harp on it for too long, let's just move on and pretend that it's all normal. Oh my gosh, I should adopt a daughter myself to go through what Freddie's going through and see if we could speak on this on like a really deep level. No, I'm just kidding. This shouldn't really happen to people. Carly is way too depressed about the breakup to enjoy Spencer's party, but she promised him she would be there, so she shows up. Although, she kind of talks the whole time, even through his speech, about wanting to leave, which is kind of disrespectful as a sister. Like, Carly, this guy literally raised you. I do like how you could see Spencer is essentially such an adult at this point. Like, he was a kind of an adult in the original show, but here it's like he's really committed to it and being mature, despite the fact he does have a few blow-ups every now and then, because, of course, he's Spencer. But in this moment, it's just fun to see him actually connect to the real world and find his place in it. Carly's about to leave, but then she sees a handsome guy and decides to stay, which is not really such an influential reason, but what can you do? Harper and Spencer have the whole B plot this time. We just have to accept that they know each other, and even though they don't really have a lot in common, they argue throughout this episode, which kind of paints Harper in a bad light, because it's like, why would you put her at odds with one of the funniest characters right off the bat, especially since their B plot isn't a lot of jokes. It's more like Spencer trying to prove himself to Harper and that he is a true artist, despite the fact that he's rich now. Like he doesn't have that original spark that an artist would have. And I like that insecurity. It definitely shows us that Spencer is committed to being an artist. But yeah, it doesn't really help Harper. Like, I wish it was a Freddy-centric episode for that matter. Like, let's just have fun with Harper. Like, don't give us super serious plot lines with her. I barely know how she operates as a person. It's funny watching Millicent get in the way of Freddie's dating. Like, he essentially is taking the role of child again, but instead of Miss Benson, it's Millicent treating him like that, which is funny. Because, of course, Freddie can't grow with all these women, like, pushing him to do very specific things. Like, he's never gonna find himself, or even another woman for that matter at this point. But hey, seeing Miss Benson right off the bat was definitely a really warm welcome. I feel like when I was watching this for the first time, it definitely suspended my disbelief, and like I calmed down about judging this show so hard. Because really, it's not that big of a deal that it's like rehashing a lot of the same original elements, since they're doing it either effortlessly or not obnoxiously. I mean, except for the exposition dialogue, but let's just move past that. Carly finds a new guy, and she kind of forgets about everything she worried about before, and as they're about to have breakfast, even Bo makes an appearance, giving her one time to shut him down. And I like that. I like him getting his comeuppance. It's a little unnatural the way everybody gathers in the living room for this, but hey, like, I just like seeing the main characters again. I like the commentary on the fact that Carly's essentially distracting herself with new guys and trying to find her place in the world, but usually having it be stuck around men and like what she wants to do with her life, like a more millennial standpoint than the original pilot, which is like her trying to kind of find her place in Ridgeway. In this, she's seeking out independence and like kind of like a new angle to do with her work and her life, which makes us really empathize with her a lot more. But the original is just like her falling into this whole idea of starting a web show, like entertaining people. It's a lot more wholesome of a journey, and this one just kind of is about corporate America and what it's like to be an adult. But hey, that's just the dark, depressing world of being an adult. I can attest. It becomes about the deeper meaning of her independence and how she really misses Sam, which is a great way to bring up where she's been this whole time. I'm sure, like, you guys were wondering, I was wondering this whole first episode, just when are they going to mention Sam, and is it going to be respectful? And it is. It feels like they're talking about her as if she really is this friend in real life that needs help and like they miss her, and it's very genuine coming from such an authentic place. And it kind of inspires Carly to do the web show again on her own this time. Which it's kind of weird because they half commit to reviving the web show or bringing Carly into her own social media influencer era. Which it's just... I wish it wasn't necessarily the web show iCarly. I wish it was them more leaning into the fact that she is a solo artist now. But hey, it works for it working. And of course, we get the three main characters back up in the attic one more time to kind of reinvent the already established world we know and love. They did a good job at recreating the Nickelodeon magic of having that first pilot and laugh track. And even though they are starting out as an already successful show, it still gives us like some garage vibes that these characters have a long way to go and they actually have aspirations and things they want to do in their life. While Spencer's and Freddy's aren't super clear, Carly's is really interesting at least. It doesn't bring the community together as easily as the original show's pilot, because of course it's more so of like a group project and they have to work together in order to get this one specific goal, but here it's just Carly. Spencer gets his approval from Harper, which is kind of like a separate plot, but the internet doesn't really find itself weaving its way into this one outside of Carly. Of course, we can't not compare it to the original iCarly pilot. The cool thing about the original pilot is every character kind of had its place. Like, for example, Sam was beating up a kid when Carly started talking to her for the first time. Freddy was staring out the peephole to see when she would come home. Like, all the character relationships seemed pretty straightforward based on, like, the scenarios they were given. In the new pilot, Carly is about to start a new web show. In this first pilot, she was just assigned to record people for the school talent show. Carly and Sam have like an instant Drake and Josh dynamic, which makes a lot of sense having that be the most recent super big hit show they had. Like, Carly is pretty heavily the straight person in this main group. Spencer is definitely the lovable loser right off the bat, showing us how irresponsible he is to literally have turned a basic camcorder into a squirrel, which, how in the world would that have happened anyway? So Freddy ends up tagging along to Carly, recording the new talent show people. Him and Sam have problems with each other right away, which is so funny. I wish Harper and Spencer had something like this if they were really going to go for the comedic duo, which it felt like they were trying to go for, but it didn't actually work out. The original one has this whole like sensation element where not only is there like wacky people around them, but their entire video of the auditions blows up. Freddy records Sam and Carly talking and ends up embarrassing them in front of the whole world. But you know, everybody finds them super funny, so it blows up in like a good way. Carly and Sam try not to freak out from talking about Miss Briggs behind her back and having it blow up on the internet. And low-key back then, like, I don't know if any adults were looking at the internet. Like, she's definitely not seen this. A lot of the jokes on this require Sam and Carly's reaction to the weird people around them, which is funny because the entire show ends up being more about Freddy, Sam, and Carly being funny. So it's weird that this pilot is trying to lean on other people just in case Sam and Carly aren't that funny. Like, it feels kind of like a excuse of some sort. The conflict and stakes are really high in this, where like essentially Miss Briggs can find out they were talking about her and get even more trouble, but essentially she's this villain that doesn't want them to have any of these kids do the talent show because their talents are so weird. Like, why does it have to be a commentary about what's weird and what's not weird? It definitely reminds me of the old days when you used to be able to get in trouble for anything you put online. Like, oh, if I had a nickel for every time my parents called me after I uploaded a YouTube video to express their concerns, I feel like Carly, Sam, and Freddy would understand what I was going through too. It ends up being about this like kind of like kid revolution situation where it's more about adults versus kids, and Carly is going to lead the way in let's do a web show that actually highlights these kids that adults don't want to highlight, which is super relevant to even today. I feel like millennials and Gen Z have this like big fight against older generations where they don't necessarily see us as normal people, or they look it down on us because we're weird, and it's definitely being reflected in this iCarly episode. And I feel like that's why it means a lot to us that this show even came back. Like there's something cathartic about watching these kids making like their own videos at our age with like controversial opinions, censorships, being told what to do. And then here we're coming back to a time where things are exactly like that, and Carly's trying to find her independence, and there's not really necessarily an antagonist. So I feel like the original pilot did a better job at establishing these stakes, showing all the characters for the first time in a natural way that also felt like we were learning about the characters and progressing the story, as opposed to the new one, which is more so feeding us information without having fun doing it. Like, you could tell it's a lot more sterile, it's a lot more composed, kind of like an adult sitcom, and they didn't want to lean into the cheesiness of it all. But I do feel like sometimes they avoided the cheesiness, but just the parts that make a good story. You know, like Sam beating somebody up, like Freddy staring at her through his door. Like, those are things that are comical because they're so ridiculous. So yeah, I feel like they cut out some of the wacky angst that could have done really well in the new iCarly. But you know what? Honestly, the new iCarly has a lot of really good moments coming up. I would say this pilot is probably the low point of this whole show, which is a good thing. It's a good sign to show that this is only the beginning of something actually really genuine that comes back and fills your heart one more time. So yeah, while the first series of iCarly did the pilot a little bit better, I still kind of had fun with the iCarly reboot version. The original pilot ends with them having a party to celebrate this new web show that they're all going to be committed to, and the new series ends up with them bringing back baby Spencer, which is one of the old classic bits. So it's definitely honoring the first pilot, and the first pilot isn't necessarily trying to honor like something that's going to happen later, so it's never going to be like new original IP, but it does the job for what is worth coming up. And there's something about seeing Spencer and Carly and Freddy get back into it in the new series that makes this whole first pilot feel a lot more genuine. And I feel really excited to have iCarly be a part of my culture and how I reflect on the internet, even today. But let's keep going.
I'm really glad we're doing the show again. When we started, we were just kids having fun, but now we can make a real impact. You know, push culture forward.
Can you help me take this off?
So this second episode is a huge leap forward. I hate iCarly, and honestly, I fell for it pretty quickly. Like, all of my hesitancy on the quality of this show kind of went out the window when I saw even just the cold open. I Hate iCarly is about Carly dealing with one of her followers relentlessly trying to bully her as an influencer. And whew, guys, if you were an influencer, which I kind of am, you would know how this feels. I too have been in young Carly's position where people all online are saying rude stuff about me, and you know what? It does hurt. It sounds like I'm joking, honestly, but it does hurt. It's a hard time to live in, and it's interesting to see them dive into this topic, having be so normal. Like in the original show, they would explain what was going on, like, oh, a hater is when you do this and when this, but like now all this stuff is so ingrained in our culture, even Freddy knows about it off the bat, so everybody can explain it. It doesn't really matter who it is. So apparently this guy just keeps relentlessly following her on every form of social media. It starts with a bit where she's dressed as a bunny because apparently she was doing a makeup tutorial, and it's one of those things where like they tell, don't show. Like, I would have loved to see whatever they were doing in that makeup tutorial. Like, that's a funny concept. Why not sell me on it? Carly's insecurity here really reminds me of the original neurotic Carly. Like, I love that is her whole thing. But as Freddy's helping her take off the bunny outfit, it really makes me wonder, like, why is he needed? Like, we don't usually do videos like this with a huge technical crew like we used to. Like, it's really hard to find a place for him and have it be logical why he needs to be there. Carly says she's gonna fight this new hater with love and light, which is so funny. It almost sounds like religious. Like, Carly, what do you mean love and light? That's definitely like my mentality though too. Like, I feel like I find myself being very pacifist. Like, I don't condone fighting. I don't think there's usually a good reason to get physical, but Freddy saying he just reports and blocks them is so Freddy. Like, of course that's him. Carly immediately decides to invite this hater of iCarly to meet up and find out exactly why he doesn't like iCarly. I know this sounds crazy, but I actually had a very similar situation when I was going to college in Chicago in 2016, 17, 18. I did a show called Jensen Goes to College, and I talked about it in one of my other videos, but it was like one of those shows that like I just said whatever I wanted, and it was like borderline offensive because it was immature me making stuff up that I thought was funny that I saw on TV myself. And I remember one person in particular commented on all the videos, and he essentially said, "Get rid of yourself," in not so kind of a tone. Obviously, there's a lot more to that story, but we'll get into it as Carly gets into it, shall we? So we get a really funny bit with Spencer and Freddie actually trying to look like they're wearing disguises, so whoever this iCarly hater comes in as will not recognize him. If Freddie was really committed to this bit, I feel like Millicent would be a little bit more hidden. I don't know why they would just shamelessly be out in the open like this. And we see Skybox, which is where Harper works. It definitely sounds like a Schneider Universe type place, but I feel like they're not making the title changes super dramatic from what they used to do. Like, Skybox and Starbucks are just so similar. Then again, the iPhone and the Paraphone are similar. I don't know. The idea that Spencer is the one who wants to defend Carly if something goes haywire, like, what are you gonna do, Spencer? He admits he has a taser, though, which is definitely funny. And then they run into Nora Dershowitz, which is the star of some of the worst episodes of iCarly for me. She was in iPsycho 2, and her whole thing is she's just a crazy person that wants Carly in her basement. Like, they really don't sugarcoat it in any way. She's not just lonely, she's not just anything, she's just crazy. They really don't humanify her. And Spencer apps himself with the taser right off the bat, which is definitely funny. The cool thing about Nora is that she's the scapegoat because, of course, Carly's gonna think that it's her harassing her channel. Same thing with Neville. Way back in season 1 when he was just a big fan and then ended up turning his back to iCarly. Like, of course that would happen again. While Carly's waiting for this stranger, she runs into a guy and starts hitting it off with him, and he's really nice, and I feel like as the audience, we know pretty quickly, of course, this is gonna be the guy. We don't have a lot of other characters to work with right now. Freddie is so focused on his new mustache, which just makes me think of him not only being like the comedic relief character, but even worse. Like, it reminds me of Alan Harper from 2.5 Men. Like, he's just a guy down on his luck, been through a couple divorces himself, and then just finds, like, his personality and the mundane things in his life and starts randomly clinging to things that he thinks are a part of him. Like, Freddie has a lot of bits where he's just like super into one thing and it kind of makes him forget about his real life circumstances, but for the most part, like, this boy's just suffering. Freddie exactly reminds me of all the friends my age that like went to college, got a degree, and couldn't find a job in that degree, and is just like trying to find joy out of the smaller things. As Carly tries to track down this guy, she has like a whole clipboard of a lot of people she knows that she suspects it could be. Like, we see a picture of Miss Briggs. Of course, Neville's on that list. Like, I wish we got to see a little bit closer at this clipboard. It's kind of cool. Definitely stalkerish that she put the new guy she was interested in on that board. Like, sure, we all know that this is definitely the guy who's trashing her, but she doesn't think it's weird to have a picture of this guy she just started talking to on there. Oh my gosh, and Spencer's kind of blind in this, so he keeps relying on his other senses, which is so funny. Like, he is such a klutz around here. Freddie comes in and actually kind of pities Spencer, like wants to help him a little bit. And this is when he starts giving me that Leonard and Sheldon vibes, where it's like they're kind of, where Spencer and Freddie kind of take the comedic duo role in this in the way that Sam and Freddie couldn't do because they don't have Sam. Like, I feel like Freddie's character works best when he's reacting to somebody or having a response to somebody, because when he's just like leading on his own, it almost feels like he's so ignorant that the directions he go to are so misguided, like running after a mustache. That can't be normal. So Carly ends up going on a date with this guy, and they really keep hitting it off. Like, it's nice to see Carly in such a healthy relationship so far. I mean, I know it's been one date, but like the back and forth is really normal. But Nora's role in this is so weird. Like, she keeps interrupting the date, which doesn't necessarily have to do with the rest of the plot. It doesn't really matter how that happens. It feels like a comedic skit that wasn't welcome and doesn't progress anything. Like, this is the only reason I'm pointing this out is because this is a good example of something the show doesn't do super well, is integrate the comedic moments with the plot that's progressing. Seeing Millicent talk to Harper about what a 401k is in the next scene definitely is funny. Like, it shows me that she is one of the smartest people and she is one of the youngest people, which might actually be kind of our reality, guys. Carly is super excited because her date with the guy went well, so it's like, why did Nora need to be a part of that? But moving on. And even with the date going well, iCarly 57 just magically had an opinion about Carly that was positive. Yay! So Carly thinks that she's just getting these positive reviews because of the fact that she's a good person, but really it's the fact that she's dating this guy. So this guy shows up at Carly's house to apologize. And whoa, wait! I forgot to talk about the Spencer and Freddy bit. So yeah, Spencer and Freddy. Spencer can't see, so Freddy's helping him do a bunch of stuff, like work out or do all these aerobic classes. It's just such a weird side plot. You could tell they were just trying to be as quirky as the original iCarly show. And then we find out that Spencer's been lying, and then Freddy finds out Spencer's been lying, and it's almost like the entire plot started, stopped, and then resolved itself within that one scene. Like, I wish I could see longer of Spencer not being able to do anything on his own. Another scene where we find out he's lying, but instead they like crammed it into one quick bit. And it's like, this is a Netflix or Paramount Plus show. Like, you don't have to worry about commercials. You can kind of control how long the episodes are. I don't know why they didn't just milk this a little bit longer. Like, we don't need to just have episodes played out before us. Like, let's watch these characters do funny stuff. Like, stop making the plots progress so quickly. Millicent is so cute in this episode because you finally get to see her and Carly bump heads on a real serious issue, like what's going on with her channel. Like, of course, Millicent has a little bit more insight than Carly does, and using it in a scenario against her is exactly why I like to see her on the show. Like, give me a reason for Millicent to be petty and rude toward them, the same way the teachers used to be, or the adults. Like, that's kind of how iCarly used to be, and now it's like flipped around where it's like the adults are against the kids a little bit. Carly ends up finding out that this guy is iHate iCarly 57 or whatever, and he is essentially like, dang, you caught me. Which is like, why couldn't you tell her before? Like, you had so many opportunities, especially on that dinner date. Like, that couldn't have come up. I guess that's a reason for Nora to have done that thing. Whatever, I don't know. It's kind of vulnerable in this sense because before Carly had Sam to lean on in these situations where Sam could either warn her or help her figure it out, but it seems like Harper's a little too adjacent to the plot to be involved, and Carly's kind of on her own, which it's kind of scary to gauge like if somebody's a good or bad person. And it's kind of like the sad reality of when you're a young adult and you actually don't have people to lean on as much and you kind of have to trust your own judgment. Like, I guess that is like a real compliment to the iCarly show. Like, it does kind of show that fear. I would be terrified of him though, because seeing your name on a hateful profile but then you show up at my house, like, that's a red flag. I don't get why Carly is so accepting toward this. He ends up saying that the only reason he really doesn't like her is because he was one of the people that sent in a talent to iCarly that never got featured. And it's kind of sad to think about. Carly kind of says that it's Sam's fault because she never really watched the submissions, which is just like a funny one-off joke. But then you actually feel bad for him. You're like, oh wow, like, Carly was in a position of power of telling people if they were special or not, and he was just one of the lonely kids that had reached out to her. Like, he could have even run to Ridgeway for all we know. So there's a lot more like emotional stakes here, a lot more of a moral dilemma, unlike these new episodes have been yet. The original first season of iCarly had several moral issue episodes, like when Sam put in the grades and Carly had to come clean about it because the guilt was eating her alive. Like, that was a good moral episode, and it's nice to see this take that direction. Now, this is a part I like. Carly actually has second thoughts about this whole situation after telling him to get up and leave. She shares with Harper that maybe she was in the wrong and that she should have actually listened to him. Like, that was a real reason to not like somebody at the time, which that's actually a really honest and open acceptance for Carly to have. Like, I feel like that's very sweet to empathize with somebody that much that you could like see past how you feel about them. But hey, let's take a break from all this actual deep storytelling to actually look at Spencer for a second. So he ends up asking a girl out for that night and then accidentally sprays his eyes, trying to ask Freddy to help him see once again for this whole date. Of course, it's the boy who cried wolf, and I know I said this whole plot ended in the last segment, but yeah, it should have. This is like unnecessary. It's not even a funny gag anymore. Now it's just like going on too long, which honestly is kind of funny though. Yeah, the plot though with Freddy and Spencer just feels a little generic. It feels like a friend miscommunication, like a normal sitcoms episode just replaced with iCarly characters. Like, it doesn't have to do with the show, it doesn't have to do with being on the internet. Like, why are we going this into it? So in order to make it up to Justin, Carly tries to be a good person by inviting him on iCarly, which I don't know how that works now. Like, before it was like they would be a guest star on the iCarly show, they would do something or be involved in some kind of game, but in this scenario, it's Carly just being an influencer, so she kind of, I assume, would do like vlog updates, like small funny bits, like maybe costume characters. So why is it just a video of this man on the screen? Like, you might as well make your own video, dude. We can't pretend we're living in the 2000s for some bits of this technology experience. Like, this man could have very well got up, made a video himself, and actually started a career on whatever he wanted with iCarly, instead of holding a grudge for such a long time and only waiting until now to use Carly's phone. Like, I don't know, that's just such a weird look for me. It's glaringly a copy of the episode I Like Jake, where Carly likes this guy named Jake, who's Austin Butler. Really funny, because of course he was dating Zoe from Zoe 101, and now he's hopping shows. One of my favorite parts from this episode is when Carly is telling Sam she likes this guy named Jake, and Sam literally throws an apple at him to get her attention. Also, what kind of name is Jake Crandall? Like, the Crandallberry? I don't know. Tom Crandler and the Little Scandler? I don't know, that would be a weird drama, I guess. Of course, we can't not talk about the fact that Austin Butler has been the love interest on literally so many shows. Not only was he on, like, Hannah Montana one time, in addition to the Zoe 101 obvious appearance, but he also was in Ned's Declassified. Like, this guy was all over. He's just, like, the extra of the 2000s. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if in my peripheral vision, when I was looking around a normal town, that I just saw this guy as one of the background characters, you know? And it's so funny because he virtually plays like the same character. Like, in the episode, Carly and this guy are going on a date. So he comes to the apartment, sees her house, meets Spencer even, and he's just like the perfect guy. Of course, we get like some funny moments with Freddy being jealous, because at the time his level of liking Carly was like 12,000. Like, he was just so aggressively trying to pursue her that he was like trying to intimidate Austin Butler. Like, isn't that so funny, just seeing Freddy try to fight for territory over Elvis Presley? Like, that's kind of crazy, right? Him and Carly hit it off so well, and she ends up inviting him to sing on her show. See how this is starting to sound familiar? Yeah, so that's the same thing that's happening in the current episode of iCarly. She's inviting this guy onto iCarly, just essentially to kind of keep the relationship normal. And that's scary to me. Like, that's some scary behavior. I mean, if you're looking at it in a dramatic way, for some people, I'm sure this is just work. Like, it's professional, or it's just not even happening. But it is a very real thing to, like, have people create content together, like, as either a couple, or, like, that's something that's normal nowadays. So back then, like, pretty normal for, like, this guy to be on iCarly from then on. Like, that would have been such a weird reality. But back then, it wasn't just Carly being an influencer for being Carly on her own. Like, she was a part of Sam. Like, it was her and her doing our iCarly. And the reaction to what happens is the same. Like, basically, the guy on the new iCarly has a really cringy monologue he's, like, giving to the world. And Carly just did not think to ask, like, either in rehearsal or before, like, what he planned on doing. Like, she couldn't get a version of this poem before she put him on the internet live. Like, it's clearly a live show she puts on. I don't know why she's, like, kind of showing... why she's, like, so committed to show other people on her channel type stuff. Like, I don't know, that's just such a weird gimmick. But yeah, the same thing happens with Jake. Like, Jake is a bad singer, and she's embarrassed to have it on her own show. I guess it was live back then, and it's live now because we don't accept the fact that we could edit things like this. I do think in the Jake episode when Freddie actually auto-tunes it and somehow makes him a better singer, that would have been like the proper solution in this scenario. Like imagine like Freddie just had some kind of technology, or like I guess it would be like a filter or something that would allow the audience to find what this man is monologuing interesting. Like, I don't know, what, would you add music to it? Would you make it a dance? Like, I don't know, that would be a little too modern for me, actually. I want to dial it back a little bit. But yeah, you see the connection with these two episodes? Like, iLike Jake is definitely like a spiritual kind of, prerequisite to this episode. Like, it almost makes me wonder which is a better representation of what I feel like iCarly is. Like, I consider this a really quality episode of iCarly. iLike Jake, Season 1, Episode 4. But you know what? I can't say iHate iCarly is worse. Honestly, I feel like if I had to put these two episodes against each other, I almost prefer the new episode's take on it, because, I don't know, just the more direct version of a hater being something that would, like, affect Carly in such a negative way feels a lot more realistic, authentic, like it's going on right now at this place in time. Meanwhile, back then it was more about embarrassment and like how you see yourself on the internet, and like it was kind of more cynical than it was now. I don't know, I feel like we had a pretty interesting plot line and higher stakes in the new series, like if we had to put these episodes back to back. So I don't know, new iCarly is pretty good. But I will reiterate the point. I feel like this guy could have just started his channel on his own. He could have put himself in front of some kind of internet fad. Like, we can't just pretend TikTok doesn't exist. And that's all I have to say on that. I don't know. I do feel like Freddie had some good moments, like approaching Nora Derchlitz at Harper and Carly's apartment. Like, that was an interesting reunion callback for no reason. But then again, it's not like a crime show. It's not like a superhero's whole show, but it is interesting watching these characters get together. It makes me miss Sam a little bit more, though. I am surprised, though, that I like this more. That's gotta say something.
Interesting.
Okay, so I know I was kind of fawning over that last episode, but this next one is actually my favorite thus far. It's called iFauxpologize. And it's essentially catching us up in one episode on all the technology they're gonna want you to know about throughout this show. Like, we're introduced to tweeting, we're talking about, like, social media online issues, like the way people spread words about things. Like, this whole episode is, like, about being canceled. I don't know, they do a good job at really encapsulating actual social media culture that's going on right here, right now. And even though it's a little dark, it's kind of real, and that's something you gotta respect about it. I don't know, but you know what? The cold open is the best part, because Spencer, he is gold here. Like, listen to all these things he says.
What is a feeling? How does one define a rainbow? If a bamboo breaks...
Oh, sorry, Spencer, hold on. I love this squirrel getting a manicure meme. It says so much without saying anything.
I'm saying something.
I don't know why, he's just such a good character. Watching each character have an opinion about what Spencer's doing with his art is really interesting, especially as an adult. Like, they seem to be a lot more hard-headed as opposed to the teen characters they would have been on the original show. Like, Spencer's a lot more in their social zeitgeist because they're older now. You know, like, before he had no friends his age, and they would be very isolated separately based on age, but now they're all kind of like in the same friend group even. It reminds me a lot of like Friends, or What I Like About You is a lot like that. That show with Amanda Bynes, like she's a girl living in New York City, something I feel like would be a spiritual successor to The Amanda Show. It's Amanda Bynes growing up in New York with her older sister on their own, and it definitely has a lot of iCarly vibes because of like the brother and sister thing. Like, you can't forget about that. But yeah, in that show, it's just a more grounded version of what a Dan Schneider show would be, like a Schneider universe, I guess. And that's what this is feeling more like an adult spiritual successor, but also a sequel at the same time. I don't know, I think it's doing all the right things, and it's appropriate. It's just a little awkward every now and then. Like, the way they're sitting on the couch and, like, just throwing one-liners at each other, like, it's like they already expected us to know these characters so well, while the first season of iCarly kind of introduced us to every character's character trait one by one. Like, we would learn a little bit about Freddy, we would learn a little bit about Sam through, like, the situations they get in and what they do about it. And here, they're just, like, getting into, like, third or fourth season energy, where they're just kind of already knowing each other. They don't have to question basic traits one another had, but, like, I don't know, they kind of just don't seem to care enough to get us to really know what they're thinking about. Sure, you could blame it on just being a sitcom and, like, it's sitcom writing, but, like, there is a way to do it pretty easily. Like, I kind of want to know a little bit more about what's going on in their personal lives, as opposed to just having them be characters doing a teen show bit. But Spencer's comedy saves it every time. So Carly kind of blows up for a minute on the internet because of an old picture of herself. Freddy and Harper kind of pressure her to take advantage of the moment and actually drive traffic to her show, and it starts to feel a little inauthentic to Carly, which is kind of cool that we're actually battling with that kind of authenticity. Like, technically, Carly, you are in the business of yourself, I guess. You're like, your personality is your brand, is your source of money. Like, it can help give these people jobs. Like, it's, I don't know, it's some weird territory. I like that we see she is the ethical one and the one that's, like, morally confused about everything. Like, that's really good for a main character. It gets a little meta because they reference the fact that, like, a meme goes viral, and that's kind of your chance at success. And we're also kind of talking about the fact that Miranda has a meme viral. That is her Megan from Drake and Josh smiling with the soda can looking at the computer screen. And then she recreates that meme in this scene. And guys, I don't know, this part's dragging for me a little bit. I don't like it when they get this meta. Like, it's gonna be cool looking back in a couple years being like, oh yeah, because this was going on and this actually happened, sure, but, like, it feels a little too taking me out of reality from this show type vibes, you know? Especially since Freddy literally mentions COVID and says, no, nothing like that would ever happen. It's like, okay, guys, that's a little too tongue-in-cheek for what we're fitting you into. I feel like this show should just be a drama. Like, that would make everything so much better if they committed to that. But yeah, this commentary on meme culture and making a career out of your face and marketing yourself and just making this your job, that's a really cool angle to have a TV show. Millicent references the sad reality that there could be a time where maybe eating an orange is actually going to be offensive, so Carly could get canceled in a couple years. Like, this is so crazy that this is, like, what you would have to worry about in survival mode. Ooh, this is actually really cool, though. So, apparently, the conflict with Spencer is really interesting. So, Spencer is going to have an art gallery, and one of Carly's memes that trended were making fun of Spencer's art. So now there's this trending art meme that's actually driving a lot of traffic to Spencer and Carly. And Carly thinks this could be a good thing. She's being told by Freddy and Harper that this is probably a good thing. But Spencer's all like, oh, I'm an artist. I don't want to be drawn attention to in that way, which is definitely a deep character moment for Spencer. Like, it's so real to see him actually be committed to being an artist. Like, a mature artist is scary looking, and he's definitely good at it. I like the dramatic character issues they're having, like Carly and Spencer not getting along, like Carly not feeling like she should actually have to apologize, Spencer being insecure that his meme is the one driving everything and he's not even comfortable with it. That sucks. But how cool is it that we actually get to see, like, a real argument between these guys? Like, I Date a Bad Boy was a little different with this. Yeah, that was one of the episodes where they really disagreed. I'm not sure if you guys remember that one, but I Date a Bad Boy was from season 2, and it's when Carly started dating the guy Griffin, and yeah, her and Spencer got into this huge disagreement that he didn't want Carly dating Griffin, and Carly just ended up dating him anyway, and it came between them. Seeing them argue for the first time was just like, maybe not the first time, but like, it was just jarring. Seeing them disagree, like fighting each other as brother and sister, like it's so real, like when you actually take it in isolation. But yeah, like even currently, just seeing him suffer because of this whole meme situation and Carly just trying to profit off of it, it has like a really interesting conflict of interest where you definitely feel bad for Spencer, but you also feel like you know why he doesn't get it. You know, like he's a lot older, and that's where this age gap thing actually means something. Oh, Spencer's acting is so good in this one though. Like, I definitely believe that he is Spencer. The way he talks to this young woman character that's like kind of Carly's age, and she's clearly an influencer, like he just doesn't know how to talk to them, and that is so Spencer. Millicent is so cute in this episode. Like, her whole bit is that she wants to start a company that prevents people from getting canceled. So like she helps like do like a social media sweep, but really she's just got her theme song figured out. And she's like pitching herself to everybody to try to prevent exactly Carly's situation from happening, which then it's just so funny that this girl is so close to Carly and then yet also there to antagonize her. Like, it's weird because sometimes like they're against each other directly with like social media issues, but they don't really get put against one another. Ugh, I don't know. I hope they expand on this. I can't wait to watch more episodes of it. But you know, like in this moment, it feels really interesting because they both have that like younger sister experience, and seeing them go at each other about this specific situation like really makes it real. And I actually feel a lot better when I see Carly try to go out of her way to try to get the media to focus on Spencer's art. Like, her next plan is to create a meme that actually respects his art, so that way something actually good comes of it and she doesn't have to feel bad for making Spencer feel bad. So it's funny because Carly goes in with the intention that she's actually going to make it up to Spencer. She feels bad that they couldn't have a great apology earlier. So right when she walks into this art exhibit trying to promote it, she sees her own face over all of the art. So Spencer started this entire exhibit around Carly and mocking her. Oh my gosh. Which is so millennial of him. Like, I love that he's like standing up for the fact that art is a freedom of speech, and trashing the internet is perfectly appropriate. It's called the Museum of Influence, which I think I would see that to this day. That would be a cool find. Carly finds a random influencer at the place and tries to interview her about it, and she is like the stereotypical like social media girl. She's spacey and out of touch with everything that's going on. And Carly kind of gets a glimpse into Spencer's perspective, where it's like, wow, we are being a little pretentious and putting the internet above art in a lot of senses, which is kind of a deeper meaning. So yeah, Carly's trying to defend Spencer. Meanwhile, there's literal monitors of Carly with fire all around her. Oh my gosh. Yeah, seeing Spencer double down on this is actually kind of sad, because it's like, you're treating your sister with cruelty. Freddie gives Millicent a gift for her new business, and she ends up trashing him online pretty quickly, which it becomes a super funny commentary on online etiquette, with poor Freddie being bullied by his own daughter. After seeing this all on the internet and Harper makes a full business out of the meme culture of Carly, Harper tells them that there's a giant protest coming over to take down Spencer because he seems like the villain in this scenario. So Carly's influence basically takes over for her and attacks Spencer, which sucks. And these jokes are really funny. Like, even the guy that's walking by Spencer and says "screw you" in a quiet voice. Like, we do really get in touch with the current climate of social media, which kind of backtracks on itself sometimes, because the original iCarly was ahead of its time, and this one is almost right on its time. So you'll even see things that are a little obsolete for it all. Carly ends up realizing everything that she's been responsible for in this whole scenario by standing up for Spencer in front of this giant crowd, and it ends up meaning a lot to him, and probably a really sweet moment. I feel like even compared to the original iCarly series, this is a very heroic thing for Carly to do. You know, like before she was just avoiding trouble, trying to get out of situations, and now here she's fighting for her brother, which is very sweet. So yeah, just like the episode iHeart Art, we have a Spencer-centric episode talking about art and what it's defined as art, which is really interesting considering the culture has completely shifted since then. We know Spencer is still involved in art because they mentioned it in the pilot and obviously this episode, so like that keeping to a character's original premise isn't distracting to the plot. If anything, it's further expanded. And there's a lot of morals in this episode that remind me of iHeart Art. Not sure if you remember, but in iHeart Art, Spencer meets his hero, a true artist, and he ends up not liking his sculptures, so Spencer gets really depressed and almost gives up on everything. Carly, Sam, and Freddie do their best to try to get him out of this funk, but it really doesn't go well because Spencer loses his place on Earth completely. Like, look at this guy, he's so sad.
It's been 4 hours. I think you need to get off the kitchen table.
Why? Is Santa Claus here to tell me I'm ugly and have no friends?
Carly and Sam end up showcasing all of his art pieces on iCarly Live, which reminds me a lot of iFauxpologize, you know? It's like Spencer's whole exhibit of art, and the art is so different compared back then to what is done in the show now. With the world working against Spencer, it also is again up to Carly to help encourage her brother to keep expressing himself, which is a very sweet plot. The artist that made Spencer feel bad about himself ends up admitting that he only told Spencer he didn't like his art because he was jealous of him and he thought that he could surpass him one day, which is really sweet. Spencer literally went all the way back to medical school, which is ridiculous because I thought he was going to be a lawyer. And through this artist's encouragement, gets the confidence to jump back into his art, which is cool because it's actually focusing on a moral lesson. It's not as cynical. The jokes feel like they're all grounded in the characters. It's definitely more like I Want to Stay with Spencer than it is I Dream of Dance. And I love it when these shows end up being just a genuine good sitcom episode. Like, it's a really good one. While it's hard for me to choose between iFauxpologize and iHeart Art, I would genuinely say I like the Fauxpologize episode better. I felt like they almost went a little bit further into the expansion of social media, using the webcast, keeping everything intact. Like, it did a really good job. So yeah, now I'm starting to warm up a lot to the new iCarly revival. While there was a little bit of off-putting jokes and some things felt shoehorned in, like not being able to dodge this meta stuff or Freddie not really getting a fair end of the bargain, the plot of this episode really did shine. Although the very ending bit is just all the main characters singing Millicent's made-up song, which I normally wouldn't love because I'm like, what a waste of an ending, but that's funny to end the entire episode on a joke like that, especially since Millicent's song was so funny. And I like that this character is being really warmed up now. Like, I'm liking Millicent a lot.
Alrighty, I got all our snacks. Hot wings, hot Cheetos, hot pretzels, and the latest addition, hot beers.
So season 1 episode 4 is called I Got Your Back, and I was excited for this one because it's the first friend breakup type episode. You know, like Sam and Carly had a lot of moments where they would disagree or they would get into arguments in the original series, and those were always rich with comedy, rich with morals and friendships. Like, I really like those episodes, and this one definitely delves into it. It's a little off pace because the structure starts with the B plot being the first thing that happens in the episode, which isn't super normal. Usually you start with the A plot, like whatever going on with Carly. But this actually starts us off with Freddie and Spencer, which are great together. Like, they're definitely a Leonard and Sheldon when they work really well. Spencer saying that he got them both hot beers is probably one of my favorite adult jokes in this entire show, but still makes me question if it's even relevant that they're adults now. Like, does it need to be a show like that? The funniest joke is with Freddie not being open to getting back into the dating world. He literally shuts down this girl at the door, and it's kind of funny the way he does it. Like, this is the funny Freddie that I've gotten from the original show that I haven't really seen so much. Like, he's goofy and misled, not necessarily like the Charlie Brown of misfortune. Spencer calling him a short king is like literal comedy gold. I feel like this should have been the pilot just because it's throwing us into more adult situations before anything else. And it's giving me a little bit more Friends vibes because if it's dealing with Freddie's relationships and Carly's already kind of dealing with her own thing, it reminds me of like having the main romantic leads like going away from each other just to come back to each other, especially with Freddie's exploration of other women. The way he interacts with Millicent actually makes it seem normal that it's his daughter. And Freddie leaves her with the girls, which is kind of a negative character trait. Like, you should care about Millicent a little bit more. I get he's going through a lot, but like, that doesn't mean be a neglectful parent. So yeah, Carly and Harper's relationship is really interesting because they have their own backstory that is new to this show, meaning we don't have to rely on too much old iCarly lore for it. She also plays a unique position, like she's essentially Carly's public relations, like how she's viewed in the world, so like she has to help her stay on track, adding a really interesting dynamic between the two and a lot of pressure with their working relationship. Essentially, her ex has a new boyfriend, you know, Bo, remember him? Yeah, weirdo. So Harper is using this whole thing to help Carly almost counteract it and get better in the public eye. She has her go on a date with somebody that she wants her to be eye candy with, and it's this really weird guy that they have no chemistry with. Millicent gets in the way by poking fun at the strain in Carly when she's like having trouble listening to Harper, and the two pretty much come on opposing sides. Carly and Harper kind of hide their distaste for each other throughout the episode, and the less they talk about their problems, the more it builds up, leading to a final fight with them in the apartment. Of course, Millicent is having a field day with this because it's everything she set up. And sensitivities are being brought up about that very meeting, having them actually against each other. And since they're not really like Carly and Sam, the way they argue is completely different. It just feels a little weird because Sam needed to be on iCarly, so Carly had more of a reason to hold on to her, and in this scenario, Carly's her own independent person, and Harper isn't necessarily even needed to continue the show, so I'm not really worried about losing her too much, because I haven't really found how much she means to Carly yet. Although talking about how they met does help a little bit, I have to admit. The B-plot in this episode is probably my favorite plotline in the entire show. You know how I was talking about how it opened with it? Yeah, that was a smart idea on their chance. So it's about Freddy getting out there, like we talked about before, and trying to get his confidence back, but it's not super helpful because he's very insecure. Spencer goes out of his way to really help Freddy by finding a woman for him. Seeing Spencer care so much about Freddy and how he's feeling is very wholesome and makes a really good episode out of this. And it's so funny because he ends up hiring a prostitute, which is actually a relevant reason to have the adult aspect in this. And they don't really know that she's a prostitute right away. It's just one conversation with Harper that kind of reveals that she costs $500 an hour. And then it ends up Spencer paying like constantly for hours on hours just to get Freddy in this relationship. They do a good job at paralleling this with Carly's experience by having them both on the dates at the same time, which also runs back to my friend's theory of the romantic leads dodging each other so much. But yeah, Freddy gets super happy and lustful about this new girl, they call her Ramona, and Spencer is essentially having trouble affording for her to continue to be his girlfriend. Oh, it's funny because Spencer thinks she's an actress and he's paying her to be an actress, but I don't know if Spencer realized that she is not an actress. Or I guess she is in a way. I think a prostitute can somewhat be an actress. Spencer now can't get Freddy to give up on Ramona, so his wallet is in trouble. Some of the funniest comedic relief I could ever imagine. And that's where it's like definitely reminding me of The Big Bang Theory. Like, this is an adult situation that is just such a funny circumstance to be stuck in. And that plotline kind of resolves itself, with Freddy saying that they never really had spark anyway, so all of Spencer's money was essentially wasted. But back to the Carly and Harper fight, it was just like one little fight, and then suddenly Carly's showing up at the red carpet all by herself, with the dress she wore at the finale of the first iCarly, which is actually kind of a cool detail, I had no idea. Despite the fact that they're in a big argument, Harper comes through anyway and helps her through an embarrassing wardrobe malfunction in front of all the cameras. And it's actually really sweet considering the two were really not on each other's side a little bit ago, and I'm happy it resolves with them. They end up making up and all is good by the end of the episode. And I really like this one. I do feel like the B-plot outshines the A-plot so much. Like, Carly and Harper's relationship doesn't feel threatened so much, and Freddy feels like the main character for some reason. If we look back at another old iCarly episode, we see I Don't Wanna Fight. Why? Because it's a Carly versus best friend episode. Of course, we have to cross-compare them. In this episode, it's Carly and Sam's friendiversary, and Carly ends up getting Sam a really thoughtful present. World's first iCarly t-shirt. Not only is it rare, it's sentimental, and it's one of a kind. Sam focuses on trying to pay back the favor to Carly by getting her tickets to the Cuttlefish concert. But when she finds out it's super expensive from this guy named Ripoff Rodney, which, by the way, this guy's hilarious, look at him.
Peacock feathers.
Yeah! Peacocks.
$20.
20?
Do you care about your nose or not?
You swear they're Laotian?
Guaranteed.
I'll take them.
Thanks, Ripoff Rodney. It's starting to feel like a Victoria's character, the way this guy is. Yeah, she sells the shirt anyway and doesn't realize how this would actually upset Carly, and the two get in a really big argument, with both of them being pretty stubborn about their sides. Freddie gets involved, and the whole episode is essentially about this argument. We see them mistreat each other over and over again, and it's really sad because, you know, they are so close. The entire web show kind of revolves around them being friends, and it even goes haywire when they try to pretend to be friends even though they're not. Like, the whole show starts to suffer. In the end, Freddie is able to turn their argument into a segment on iCarly and actually get them to make up. He ties their hair to a bunch of ropes and pulls it when they are interrupting one another, which is kind of rude. I don't know how Freddie set all that up. But yeah, there's a lot of differences between this episode and I Got Your Back from the new series. And I would argue that the old one, I Don't Want to Fight, comes from a lot more of a genuine place. It has a lot more funny moments. The characters feel ripe and the stakes feel high. It's almost nothing compared to the B-plot of I Don't Want to Fight, though, because Freddie's plot line is just so funny to me, and Spencer acting in it is really good. I just feel like the original show's counterpart did a good job at weaving the web show into it as well, and having the emphasis on them actually fighting, like multiple scenes where they're not getting along, them trying to make it work, seeing what their friendship is worth, and having it get stronger over time is a really funny concept. In this, it's just Carly and Harper essentially building up anger and resentment toward each other, having it burst in one moment and fixed in the next. Like, there's not a lot that rides on it. I think this one could have reached a lot higher of a potential, but I wouldn't call it a complete failure. You know, like diving into the history of Harper and Carly in a way that's almost Drake and Josh style is a really rewarding experience. Like, you feel like it's honoring iCarly in a different way than you're used to, because obviously we're all nostalgic for Drake and Josh too. Why not just pull from those shows? They're doing a good job at appealing to the people watching the show, which is like me and you, like the people that grew up with the show originally. So they don't really want to recreate the old episodes. They want to change it for better or for worse. And in this scenario, it was a little bit for worse, which kind of sucks.